Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your questions 7 days a week about media. Not all the questions, but most of the questions that you ask. If you've got those questions, you can send them on in, and let's jump into them. Jason?
Tommy Chance in St. Paul, Minnesota asks, my laptop shut down and rebooted 30 minutes into the stream with a BUGCHECKCODE 313 error. It's the third time in the last 6 streams that it's gone down. It's an i7 10th gen with 8 gigs of RAM running OBS going on 6 years. Time to upgrade? Upgrade to?
Ronnie?
Yeah, so if some of the hardware that we are using on our productions is showing something going wrong in one broadcast or one session, we take it out and we deeply try to check it. We never use that unit again. So that's the first thing I would do, is just to remove it from the equation and not having it cause any trouble. Of course, this could be a budget thing that you have this only machine, etc. But I would hardly try to recommend you use it again until you have rectified this. Then to the problem. So I guess this is a Windows machine, since it's Intel, could be, of course, an older Mac, but I think it's a Windows machine. And what we've seen on older Windows machines that doesn't have enough cooling is that they over time tend to develop some heat sickness. Running OBS with 8 gigs of RAM on this CPU, I think you are redlining this machine depending on how advanced your OBS setup is. And 8 gig RAM is being utilized to the max here, I think. And the CPU is probably also getting really hot. And if there is just a little bit of dust inside these fans, it would reduce the cooling effect of everything going on to a great part. So I would do the following. I would do some tests. I would do some mem check on this machine just to see if the memory cards has gotten sore and starting to fail. That can take some time over. So let's say 20-30 minutes, and then they're starting to get hot, and then they are starting to show that they are kind of becoming a little long in the tooth. So use memcheck and run it for a long time, not only 2 or 3 times. Use it for a long time, and if it only gives you one error during that check, you can discard the memory cards. They are probably being starting to get too old and starting to get faulty. The other thing is, of course, if you have the option to check inside the machine, check that the thermal paste between the CPU and the cooler is good, and that it's free of lint and dust and everything that can be fixed to the fans and the kind of the canals inside where the air is flowing through. Those two are the biggest things that I'm thinking of right now. Of course, the GPU as well. Check that the cooling on the GPU is good as well. I don't think it's a software problem. I don't think it's a general main board system problem. I think it's related to heat and could also be power. So it could be suffering from power, too little power going into GPU and CPU. But I think the 2 first ones are the most actual ones.
Go ahead, Jason.
Tommy, if you're making even $1 for these, you need to completely get rid of this because OBS is your encoder, and that is the most important appliance in your chain. BUGCHECK 313 is a standard BSOD. I would absolutely, completely, and totally reinstall Windows, and then use something like Windows debloating tool. You need to strip Windows down to absolutely nothing and get rid of absolutely everything that you can. Also check the BIOS, run SpinRite on the hard drive, but if you're getting paid for this, get rid of it.
Even if you're not getting paid for it, you got to get you've reached the end of the line. Here's the problem: is you end up with software encoders, and the software encoders they just keep writing to make it more powerful. But as it gets more powerful, it doesn't support what it did before. So, and they don't necessarily tell you that. I can't imagine that if you went to the specs for OBS that it even listed 8 gigs. The 8 gigs is your problem, for most likely. There could be other things, but the 8 gigs is your real problem. But I would probably look at. I mean, I don't buy a lot of I don't buy a lot of PCs to do streaming. I either go towards Linux and things that are more hardware, or I use Macs to do that. But if you are, I think a gaming laptop. If you're looking for a laptop, a gaming laptop like an Asus ROG would be, the ROGs, the Strix or the Zephyrus are two that I've used in the past, and those have worked great. They're going to cost you $2,000 or $3,000. I mean, they're not going to be $10 to fix, but they will work. And they and you probably get the base unit of those, and they would probably treat you well for another 5 years. Next question.
Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington asks, the Extra Hours episode on Monday went from how we live streamed this event to a deep dive on carts. Is pre-wiring and rolling in the way?
Good running.
Yeah, now I have to watch that episode. Those guys are great at having a good long discussion, going very, very deep, and the rabbit hole seems to never be ending in that channel. I tend to pre-cable everything, so we make most of at least the fly racks or the fly packs that we are flying with. Those are pretty finished, so you just pop the panel, the front panel and the back panel, and then it's almost ready to go. But of course, in larger productions, we have more functionality added to the mix, and we can't fit everything, or we decide not to fit everything inside one rack. But all the racks, if I understand the question, all racks should be kind of optimized for their functionality and their primary use, and then have a few extra bits and pieces inside it to be able to have the flexibility if you just bring that rack with the primary functionality. And of course, have good patch panels in the back to patch up the other racks that do the same or different, or add functionality, or make sure that you have duplicated signal routes going through your system. So it all depends, but of course, having everything pre-wired in one big rack, I've learned my lesson. So we started our journey 20 years ago with racks that weighed like 400 or 500 pounds. Insane. You had to be 4 people to just lift it. And of course, we moved a lot away from that. And that is also something that is made possible by vendors producing smaller, compact units with a lot of functionality and a lot of power in smaller units. That is, of course, getting hotter. So you have to make sure you have a fan to vent all of this. Ref the previous question. So building everything inside, but watch out for power hungry devices that creates a lot of heat. Those are really messing up things.
Yeah, as I try to pre-wire as much as I possibly can. So I do not like building things on site. The problem with it is you're sitting in a nice, cozy, air-conditioned lab. You're putting things together. You're testing them. You're making sure that everything works. And when you're missing one cable, you go put it in. You test everything and make sure it's working. Here's an example of a larger show that we did a couple of years ago. What you can see here is, if I go to and I'll cut through a couple images here, but let me go to full frame here. So this represents 2 live channels and 6 rooms that we built. And so in our little space here, we built out all of those rooms. We wired them all together the way we expect them to be wired. Everything has been running for a couple of days straight. And this is how we kind of make sure that everything is going to do what we expect it to do. So if you look at this, as you can see, this is like maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago that we did this one. But you can see us putting all these things together. All of these are different racks. We're figuring out the desk layout. so that was for the producers. So figuring out our comms here, you can see the comms units here that are us kind of sorting out what those what those mean. So anyway, figure, all of these pieces here, these laptops that are all on one side, those are each running a different mixer off in the distance. So pre-built it all, that took weeks, but it took weeks of 3 or 4 people working at a normal pace, getting it all together. And then when we roll in, it takes very little time. So if you look at the cost of that, if I had to build in each one of those rooms with 2 union calls, and I had to do it all at the same time. So I would have had, so for those 6 of them, that's 12 people that I'm paying a day. So it's 12 days of, so it's a big number. And instead I had one person on the union who also happened to work for me. So would come to each room and just set it up in 45 minutes. Just go boom, 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 boom. So it was a lot more efficient for us to do it and doable. In a show, this was for Dreamforce. In a show like that, it's not whether it costs more. You just don't have enough union operators. Like, you don't have enough people to do the thing. You need to be able to be efficient because you're not going to get your calls unless you're doing keynote. So I find that we try to pre-wire everything. We're getting ready for a show in September, and Kevin starts the wiring tomorrow. so the and he'll be working away and putting all that stuff together. We'll test everything, make sure that every cable's working, all the fiber works, everything. Cameras do what we're expecting them to do. It really is the key to the operation when you want to have a stable event. And it's not just a stable event; it is a comfortable event for the client, where you're not pulling your hair out, they're not pulling their hair out. You're getting in there, you're getting set up, everything works the way it should, and you're worried about the show and not about the build. Next question.
Danny Grizzle in Longview, Texas asks, I'm building a mobile live streaming kit. What are the pros and cons of a travel router like the GL-iNet Slate 7? And how might this device impact bonding schemes like Speedify?
I go running.
Well, Speedify is, of course, a bonding service, software-based. I don't trust it with anything we do. So what you could do with something like the GL-iNet is to have multi-WAN. So you can have it connected to the Ethernet. You can have it connected to the venue's Wi-Fi. You can even have it connected to an iPhone via Tether, or you can have a cellular modem connected into that. So I tend to see these devices as multi-WAN, where I can choose which one to use. So I do not do failover automatically. I manually choose. If I see there is a problem with cabled Ethernet, of course, probably deeper problems inside the building itself. But if I see that we have some trouble with some of the cabled network ports on that router, we tend to just check if the other, because we have several routers always connected to a venue, and we check the other ones and see if there's a problem there. If not, we just use the other way. And the way we are solving this in more advanced productions is we have multiple encoders going each the way out to, for instance, YouTube, and then use the secondary encoder input at the YouTube to be able to have another completely different way out of the building. So I would not trust the GL-iNet auto routing or auto failover, and at least not together with Speedify. I would not try that. I've tested that a few times. It didn't work. It's something about the video connection needs to be very, very high quality, and the only way out is using real hardware for doing the bonding. And that is another thing. You can, of course, kick in a kind of company complete pre-made multi-WAN router that actually does the encoding and also split the signals out in different routes. But that's another thing.
Yeah, I don't think I would use this as my primary thing. It's good for a travel router. I think you're probably thinking about overusing it. I would look at the PEP waves are pretty good for this kind of thing. I don't do any bonding schemes without a product that's designed for it, whether it's Degero or LiveView or others. Obviously, I have been using LiveView for almost 20 years. So we have one that they've lent us, but I rented 2 of them for a decade. To do as backups for a lot of my shows and so on and so forth. And so I still think it's probably the gold standard for this kind of thing. But I think that there's other ones. But the reason is it's not just the fact that they're bonding. You think, okay, I can build a bonding too. Yeah, but you're not building relationships and contracts with the cell companies, which is what the bonding companies, when your bonding unit comes with modems, those modems are on a different contract than what you can buy at the Verizon store. And so the problem you get into on a mobile one is that they're not the same, and I would not use, I think some people have used Speedify. I would not use Speedify in a streaming environment. I wouldn't trust it. It's consumer It's a consumer solution. So your best bet in most cases is to think about whether you're going to get a true bonded solution for these. And again, it costs a little bit of money, but failure is the most expensive part of production. And so you just really want to think about, if you're cobbling something together, you want to be very careful about where you cobble, and your way out is one of the places you probably would want to avoid. I'm having this conversation almost every day for different productions where someone says, well, I've got one connection and then I've got this other cellular connection or whatever. And we're like, well, we'll bring a SAT truck in, or we'll bring, I'll get a point to point, or I'll bring a live view in, but I don't really, I take it pretty seriously. And you may be not working at that scale yet, but what I would say is that you won't get to that scale if you have things falling down on shows. That's the real challenge. So really think about that process. But I wouldn't try to use I think they're really cool, the GL-iNets, and I think they now support. Someone was telling me they support tail scale, the newer ones. So I think that they're really great little routers. I have one sitting behind me somewhere here, but I wouldn't use them for streaming. Next question.
Brian Schwartz in Baltimore, Maryland asks, for task management and time management, is anyone familiar with the Apple Reminders app? Also assume an entire Apple product environment.
Go ahead, Jason.
I love the Reminders app. I'll give you probably one of my more common examples for it. You go to, I don't know, the dry cleaners, you get your shirts washed and pressed, and they say, well, it's going to be 2 days, and you don't want it to continue to ding you, and you may not be there in 2 days. You can set it to only ding 2 days afterwards, after a certain time, and only when you're within a quarter mile of the dry cleaners. And it will ding without fail precisely when you ask it to. Oh, and it also shows up on your calendar as a to-do list, which is just magic.
Yeah, I have to admit, I probably could be better at some of this stuff. My big thing is I use calendar a lot. So if something doesn't exist in my calendar, it doesn't exist as far as what I'm going to do. And then I will say that I probably should use the Reminders app. I don't like getting notifications. So I'd rather have things slip than be interrupted. Like, I think about a lot of things and I need to keep thinking about them, and I don't like anything to ding, around me. So I tend not to want anything that would ping me. I know that sounds like a weird thing, but I check. Even my calendar doesn't check. I look at it and check in with it when I'm good and ready to look at it. And so I think that's kind of my approach to that. It's mostly so I can focus. I think a lot of people today have lost focus, because they have all these little things reminding them, notifications, everything. I turn all that off. I'm literally, the only thing that can notify me is my dryer or my washer, because then otherwise I forget to move it over to the dryer and I have to wash it again. But that's the only one. And it's not very chatty. What I do is I have what I need to get done that day in notes, and I have a little checklist, and I have a page that says this is what you got to get done today. And usually I have the 3 things, and then I have a line, and then I have all the other things I'd like to get done. There are 3 things that have to get done today. I never have more than 3. There's 3 things that you got to leave today with those 3. And I usually try to get those done by noon. like these have to get done, and I try to get them done early. If not, I fumble through them and get to the other day. But I try to get those 3 things out, and then everything. Then I got a bunch of good to haves that I try to work through, and eventually those good to haves bubble up to the 3 if they don't get done. Next question.
Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas asks, Insta360 became the office hours go-to webcam. Is its 360-degree drone about to become the go-to 360 drone? Called Anti-Gravity, product reveal Thursday, August 14th, 8 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. Pacific. Watch party on, includes the link.
Yeah, go ahead, Ronnie.
Well, I've been using products from Insta360 for decades, kind of, for many, many years. They are in a kind of segment of the industry that is not semi-pro or pro. They just have a few products that are really cool, correct pricing, enough support, and doing what they kind of supposed to be doing. The Insta360 Link is the camera that has been a really good contender in this category. It's kind of a cool camera, but they also have a lot of other products that are not that good, if I might say. They are deep in the 360 market, and they've been early introducing kind of good stuff. So it will be really exciting to see if they can bring something to the drone market or segment as well. They are talking about being able to produce something that is entirely new. I have some ideas what that could be, but I'm not sure if the professionals are the ones that they are tendering to, or if it's only the small simple use cases. But who knows?
I mean, I think Insta360 hit the right mark with the Link. I don't think that we've standardized on any of their other products. Although the 360, some of their spherical stuff looks like it's pretty interesting. I'd like to play with that a little bit. But anyway, so I think that I think that it'll be interesting to see. It's really hard to compete with DJI in this market, the market's very competitive. So it'll be interesting to see where Insta360 inserts itself into that market. Like, what does it think that it can do that's different than what's already happening? So that'll be interesting to see. Next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana asks, do you ever purchase extra empty RAID enclosures for protection against failures? Are there components in the electronics that would go bad just sitting around? OWC has some Thunderbolt 3 quads on sale.
I don't know if I buy a lot of empty ones, but I definitely, having some RAID capacity is useful. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, so the things that are probably going to die first is the power supplies. If it's internal or external, doesn't matter. The power supply construction or the design has for these type of products is kind of I wouldn't say bad, but they are kind of lacking some of the more expensive components. But I do not purchase anything to be standby. I make sure that we have enough duplications or redundancy is probably a correct word, so that we can change over and make sure that everything is synchronized, and we also synchronize out to the cloud. But we never have one extra spare just sitting on the shelf ready to be used. If we would just start using it from day one. Another thing to think of is if you're afraid of disks going bad, try to not use disks from the same purchase. Spread them out and get different batches of disks into a device. That will increase your chance of having disks not go bad all the same at the same time. So and do that as well. Don't purchase like 3 NASs that are going to be synchronized to each other and have a backup of each other at the same day. Spread that order out with a few months in between so that you get the different batches.
Next question.
Tommy Chance in St. Paul, Minnesota asks, what would be a good streaming kit you could fit in an SUV? A couple of 19-inch racks, all being able to roll in and out in a tool-wheel cart and carry upstairs if needed.
Go ahead, Jason.
I was picturing this differently. I was thinking of the guy that was doing the extreme weather forecasts live, and showed us his entire rig in office hours. I guess I've got to revert to it depends. There's a lot of size variance in SUVs. You can start with a RAV4 and go to a Chevy Suburban, and they both count, I suppose, as SUVs. So I guess it really depends on how much space you have and your tolerance for getting stuff into and out of the SUV. Without a loading dock, that is a big pain, especially if it's something heavy.
Yeah. One of the things to think about is building smaller cases. I'll show you one that this is in. This would fit into an SUV. It was a bunch of cases. It might be close. But this is here's one here this was in the Rotocon in Tokyo. But what we did is that you see these little, whether it's this or other ones like this, the different rolls are broken into little cases here. So what you're seeing is that here's some Terranexes and here's some other things here, and these all come in some cases. But monitors take up a lot of cases if you're wondering. And so here's our little elementals. So this is our encoding and recording, a couple of key pros. So anyway, this is what you're looking at here would fit into an SUV. And what we like is not creating a lot of new cases. So where we can, the cases you just open the front and hook up the back. So you pre-wired them all into that environment, and then you just have to open up the fronts. You'll see that we use straps sometimes to strap them together to increase stability. Now these are little SKBs. Those can be enclosed, or you can have ones that are open rack. So you can pull them out and they're open. And the advantage of the open racks is they're lighter. The case you are going to create a case out of it that you have to figure out where you're gonna put your empties. But that's the thing you want to kind of think about. And so stacking those together will make it a lot easier. But you can definitely fit those into it. I would recommend a good rolling cart. So rock and rollers are okay. The Cart Master is worth the investment. It's expensive. You'll look at it and go, wow, that's $1,200 for a cart, but we can fold it up and check it. So it's a really incredible cart that makes a lot of this stuff a lot easier. Next question.
Alden Christensen in New York asks, in your experience, which chat model LLM is best for generating Apple shortcuts?
The only one that I've used is ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is kind of my general, I just kind of use it as when I'm not thinking about doing anything hard. And so as a result, shortcuts seem like a simple thing to do. And so I've had a couple where it's built some pretty complex shortcuts pretty quickly. So ChatGPT is the one that I've been using for that. Next question.
Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas asks, what use would you have for the new Phantom KT810 HD at 15,000 frames per second, featuring a backside illuminated sensor which rents for approximately $2,500 a day. Best in class, and he includes the link.
Yeah, I mean, Phantoms have been around for a long time, and they just keep on getting better and higher resolution. And so you can see this is their page here. And I mean, what you use this for? Wow, that looks great. But you can see that it depends on what resolution you're looking for. This is the 810. Is that what he's talking about here? The 810. Yep. And so it's really fast. You'll see that you're starting to get the resolutions for this aren't huge. I think that they actually make ones that are higher resolution, because you can see that these are, and a lot of times these are used for science, as you know. So a lot of it is looking at things where they don't necessarily need the resolution. So I don't know what the retail is, but you can see people use it for machining, use it for analysis. There are things that there's lots of things here that are more science related, and that's probably for this kind of camera. It's less entertainment and more science, because it isn't doing the either HD or 4K at that resolution. So you're probably paying a little bit less than you would otherwise. So this one's probably more science, but Phantom makes a lot of them that are very, very good for visual effects, for movie making. You know, if you're looking for there's slow motion, like, I'll shoot 120 or 240, and then there's slow motion, 1,000 frames, 10,000 frames, et cetera, that are useful. So, and Phantom has led this pack for 2 decades. Next question.
Kenny Hampton in Greenville, Illinois asked, what's the best lossless codec and setup for digitizing my CD and LP collection? Storage is now affordable, so I want to preserve as much original audio quality as possible. How would you approach this long overdue project?
I go, Jason.
Oh, well, Kenny, I've got good news for you. A lossless codec is going to be lossless, so whatever you put in, you're going to get out exactly the same thing. And the answer to that is that it's the one that you can most easily play. The Apple lossless codec is going to be lossless. There are lots and lots of lossless codecs out there, but it really just depends on how easily you want to do playback and what hardware you have and how you intend to do that playback.
Yeah, and the LPs will be hard. The CD is going to rip what's on the CD. So a lot of CD rippers are going to get the quality that you're going to get out of that CD. You should do it sooner than later. CDs degrade over time, so you want to be, ripping them is a good idea. As far as records, you want to get a good record player, and a lot of older record players have RCA out or whatever, but you can get it like an Audio Technica, the AT, I think it's like an LP 120 or whatever, is got a USB out. So you do USB out of it into whatever you're doing, and it's a relatively high quality turntable. It's still going to set you back $400 or $500, but it's not the same as like buying a 1200, DJ rig or something like that. But I think that might be a good middle of the road, slightly above middle of the road if you're trying to get the most out of it'd be the lowest one that I'd spend money on that I put records that I cared about on, would be that Audio Technica record player. It's very much like the Technics 1200 kind of build, not going to be quite the same quality, but it's in the ballpark. And it has a USB out. So I'd think about that. And then, USB out, you're going to record on, anything can record uncompressed at this point, or on, so you're looking for generating a PCM, that USB could come in. It could be a source and audio hijack. It's going to be about the needle and the record player is what's going to get the quality, not the pipeline. Next question.
Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas asks, how do I get the SmallRig Magnetic Phone Monitor and other similar devices to work with Zoom using a cellular and second device on Zoom meeting? And he includes an Amazon link.
I don't understand the second device on Zoom meeting. So I don't this is what Paul's talking about. So it's this here. This is the SmallRig monitor. And, the only way that I've recommended using this is to snap it on here onto the back of the camera and have this join a meeting. Like, that's it. Like, this joins a meeting. There's other people on the far end that can ask questions of the people when they're on the near end. That's what it does. Like, I haven't tried to do anything other than that. And I have found after my last update with my iPhone that this one, the SmallRig specifically, is at a really low frame rate, and I don't know why. I don't think it's Zoom. I think it's the phone or the monitor, but I had a little trouble with that. The one that I've been using the most is I bought a bunch of these when we got going. Is the new MOA, and that's what. And I've been using this one. It's a little lighter on this, and it's been more stable than the SmallRig one. I don't know why, and so I don't. Yeah, I think, Paul, I just don't understand why you're using it. I wouldn't try to do it with two phones, I guess is what I would say. I think that and again, you can just have those two join. I just wouldn't have them both. They just join Zoom. So this one joins Zoom, the other one joins Zoom, and you'll have two angles. But I wouldn't push this technology too far and assume that it's going to work. What the mission that I played with and what Zoom has made possible by kind of fixing some stuff that they had on their end is the ability for you to have, take a panel and have them ask questions here for people that are on the far end and have a single camera roaming around having that experience. I think that I don't think you need a second camera for this. I guess is what I would say. If I was going to have a second camera, I'd have another one of these and I'd have it roaming around somewhere else. But the design is not to have multiple cameras. The design is for you to reproduce. Again, you may be designing something different. When I started talking about this screen and this configuration, my design is that you are a person that you get to bring a group of people to one point of view and allow them to interact with folks. And we're going to be able to do this. I've been really focused on this, the 180-degree camera. But when we get through that, this is one of the next things we'll be playing with. So stay tuned for more of that. But I think that. You want to, I think you're trying to make it too complicated. That's my 2 cents. Next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana asks, what tasks might you assign to a new crew member that would help you build trust in their skills? And would those tasks change based on the size of the production?
Maybe. Obviously, the most trust we get for people is if they are recommended by somebody else. So that's the main thing that we do, is we try to make, who's recommended them. The second thing is PA. Usually if I don't know them, I'll have them PA. And I had a PA one time in Washington, D.C., and he showed up on time. He obviously was not a PA. Like, he was like, this is a person who knew a lot, but he PA'd to meet me and to show that he knew, and he wasn't like, I'm going to show off and do everything else. He just did what he needed to do. But every time we needed to fix something, he was on it and he put it together and he quietly got it all done. No, nonchalant, just kind of managed everything. And we were like, oh, we like him. so we, and that's what happens is if you shine in that, if they shine in that area, you pull them out. We hired him for some more events. We then hired him full time. He ran my studio in DC. He then ended up going to Eurovision. And I think he's in the C-suite at Eurovision now. But it all started from being a very effective PA. From that process. And so, people who are smart will just get in where they can and kind of move their way, through that process. Go, Jason.
What is the difference between a good operations guy and a great operations guy? A great operations guy is going to notice where you're engaging, and they should be able to put you anywhere and figure out where you light up. And then at that point, just put you in it.
Yeah, I mean, when we hire someone new, what we want to know, and again, a lot of the test shoots that we do are me testing something, but it's also me meeting people. So if you see me saying, hey, we're going to do a test shoot, it's me wanting to know, what kind of person is that? And do they show up? And do they show up on time? And do they get these things done? And what are they like on set? Are they going to be camera friendly, or not camera friendly, but client friendly? So they're going to be appropriate. Are they going to talk a lot? Are they going to, get things done? What's their knowledge base, everything else? So I do lots of test shoots, and I've done them all over the world. And it is my primary way of finding people is to do test shoots and do other things like that. My second way to do it is to bring people on as PAs. My third way, of course, is recommendation. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, something that's really important is also to find out what is their skills. So you have to try them on different types of tasks and give them something to be good at, and they might end up being good at something that you didn't know, or that this person even didn't know. So putting them into a new kind of environment where all this tech stuff is going on and all these discussions and clients, and you have requirements and you have solutions, everything is kind of making people think, maybe I should try that, and you will quickly find out if this person has a skill set that is filling some gaps in your organization. And of course, if the organization is really, really big, the specialities are getting smaller and smaller. So more and more competence in smaller and smaller parts. And then you have generalists in smaller organizations like ours, and we need to have people that are good at a lot of different stuff.
If you've got questions, you can either jump into Makana. Of course, go to officehours.global/join. You can sign up. You'll get links to to the Makana and Discord and other things like that. Or you can just use askofficehours.global. You can go to askofficehours.global, and it is, or you can use this QR code here, but askofficehours.global, and you can throw your question in there. You don't have to log into anything. You just put it in, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, what are the panelists using today for cameras?
I go, Jason.
This is a rarefied case. Turns out if you spend a week in the OWC product photography studio, they'll start taking pictures of you. So I actually have a picture of me behind the 6K Pro with a 24-70 f2.8 that I never could have managed to get were I not to be faster than light.
Go ahead, Harshid.
I have been using the Brio webcam for ages now, but whenever I'm on my YouTube channel, I'm using my S22 Ultra or my Pixel 9 Pro. I am planning on probably getting a Sony camera because of the screen reader built into the cameras, the Sony ZV-1 or Sony ZV-10s specifically, but that's going to be my upgrade soon.
I go with Ronnie.
Yeah, for travels, I'm always using the Insta360 Link, which is small, compact. It can do everything I needed to do on travels. It's also my primary office cam. Here in this room, I'm using a ZV-10 with a Sigma 35, I think, which go down to 1.4. I think I have it stepped up a little bit, maybe a 1.8 or 2.0 or something, so that the background doesn't get all blurry.
I have a Sony FX30 with a 1.4 35mm G-series lens. Next question.
Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas asks, what are the three main types of microphones and how do they differ in operation?
I don't know if I can break it down into
three main types. Like what?
Yeah, I'd save that one for Wednesday. I don't know if I would say. I don't know if I would break it into three. To me, there's lots of different mics. There's labs and shotguns and there's condenser mics versus dynamic mics. There's a lot. Yeah. So I don't know if I could break it into three. Next question.
Onel Mesa in Alpharetta asks, what potential do you see in 4D Gaussian splatting, and how effective could it be to have a mobile multi-camera rig to use just for capturing events? And he includes the web link 4dv.ai.
It's pretty interesting. This is using Gaussian splat, so you can see you can actually, with multi-camera, you can move around wherever those cameras can see it. It's able to put it back together. Let's see what we got here. I think it's got a couple other options here. It's loading.
Is that real time? No way.
It's in real time. I'm moving it around in real time.
Ooh.
Wait until let's see if it it's moving in here. So by being able to see everything. Now, it's not really building geometry. The Gaussian splat is representing, as long as it has the pixels there, it can represent that. So you can see, oh, sorry, my
if you zoom in, it's going to look like splats. Splats are a compromise, but they're good if you've got enough of them. But
if you look at that, that's kind of a lot of us have worked on that for a long time. And so you could do a lot with that at the resolution that, it depends on what resolution you're capturing at, what resolutions are recommended. You can see where cameras can't see things, but being able to potentially animate cameras moving around, it could be useful for, some things. A lot of times I try to figure out what am I going to actually use this for, and so I think that I'm not clear what I would, here's some it's a multi-camera. So getting all the angles is the key. It's kind of like motion capture to some degree, but for pixels. But one of the advantages you get with Gaussian splat is the resolution tends to be much higher, and you get accurate reflections. I don't know if they're going to show that here, but oftentimes reflections work better because of the way that it's gathering those there. So. But again, that kind of motion would be very difficult to do in 3D. You're getting, a lot of the bits and pieces there with, now you're seeing some, in this case, there was some transparency issues I saw there. So it's not perfect, but it's, and remember, this is early on. It's early days for Gaussian splat. So chances are we'll be able to do more with it as we go. I think that an interactive, like I just did this thing with 360 in 180 of a glass blower. And it's pretty cool. It would be even cooler if it was in a Gaussian splat and you can walk around or move around while he's doing it. So maybe we'll do that somewhere in the future. Oftentimes there's a lesson to say, just say yes. I randomly ping someone. I got this camera without a lot of warning. I randomly pinged someone that said, hey, are you interested in doing a 180 shoot? He happened to know a lot about the headset and was very excited about it and was like willing to come in on a Sunday and record some 180 degree with me. And I was like, this is our new test subject. We are going to shoot so much video with him. So because he's very, very good at it. I was like, we're going to build a whole platform around him just so that we have places to shoot. And he's a great person to put on camera. So stay tuned for more of that. Next question.
Lois Richter in Davis, California asks, if you travel with the Insta360 link, how do you protect it?
I go running.
I used the original box that it came in. It's really rugged. You can even use it as a door stopper if you need to. So it's good. It's a little bit bigger than the camera, of course, but it's really safe inside it.
Yeah, I have I got a case. I'm just trying to find it quickly. There are little cases that you can get for it. It's a little like zipper case, and I just can't quite get to it from here. But there's a little case that'll hold the Insta360, the cable for it, and it is Insta3 link case. Just trying to. I mean, this is a similar one. These are the kind of cases that I'm using. I can't quite. This you can see it here where you can put it in, and these are different. But it's like a little zip case like this, and one of these somewhere. There's so many Insta360 cases. But there's one of them here for the Insta360 that I can't find quickly through my search. But you can set the camera down. It's built for the camera, and I've got 4 of them. I've got 4 Insta360 links, and it works great. You put it in that thing, you throw it in your backpack, and you're good to go. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, my brother-in-law is a pastor in a rural area where the internet is not best, but he broadcasts to Facebook using his smartphone. What is the best software for him to use to stream to Facebook?
From his phone, I would say Facebook. Facebook has its own stuff, so that's probably the best one if you're going to use your phone. If you are going to use something else, I mean, now like what hardware does he have, and you start going into all the different options. But I would say if he's using his phone for the broadcast, he probably should stick with the Facebook app. Next question.
Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona asks, our nonprofit is moving buildings at the end of the year. I get to build a new podcast studio. No idea what the new space will be. What do you prioritize when you're building a new space out?
I'll go, Jason.
Well, Jack, it's podcasting, so it is for sound, and I would optimize everything around the fact that if a podcast is going to fail, it's going to fail for a lack of content and a lack of a good editing pipeline. So try to eliminate as much editing as you possibly can and really decide what your regular interval will be, and do not break it for anybody or anything. But yeah, treat for sound and build for content.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, exactly. Choose your microphone based on the room you are in. If the room has a good treatment and sounds amazing when you just sit there talking to your co-hosts or guests, if the sound sounds really good in your ear, it's probably being treated already. If it is not being treated, treat it. Treat it with any means necessary. Put stuff on the walls, bass traps in the corners, depending on the size of the room, even in the ceiling. Make sure that these very annoying short the reverberation coming from displays, etc., like you can hear here, it's really annoying if you're going to listen to it for a long time. So based on that, choose your right microphone. I have a SM7B here because that is really near closed. It does reject a lot of the other sounds and noises coming from the room, which is not treated at all. I just have a lot of things in here. And if you have a really good treated room, you can move into other microphones as well, condensers, high quality condensers, for instance. But don't do that unless you are sure that your room is sounding good.
Yeah, I would say treating the room, making sure that if you're building from scratch. Now, if you're moving into something you don't know what you can do, try to find, if you get to choose the room with the fewest number of windows, closer to the core, away from other things if you can. If you're building something, then I would attempt to float the room from the ground up. If it's an open space and you're trying to build it from scratch, build it with some gaps, and float the room, and so that you know that you can go in there and you're not going to have a problem with it. Build it a little bit bigger than what you think you need, so that you can shoot video in it. I would try to not go less than 15 by 18 or so. If you want to get crazy and possibly do music and everything else, try to make it a non-uniform, so you don't have any walls pointing directly at each other. That's going to be, when you walk into an audio studio, oftentimes that's all been kind of broken up so those waves go different ways. There's other ways to treat it, but that's one thing to think about. And then the big thing is in spaces, again, if you're starting in a new space and you're building it up from scratch, and I don't know if that's what you're doing here, but if you're building a new space, getting fiber everywhere is super useful. TAC12 minimum, just get it to everywhere. And if you are building out, the number one thing we tell everybody when they're starting to build something from scratch is 3-inch conduits, like 3-inch conduits to everything. Just start with that and get your fiber everywhere. You can just roll it up and put it in the wall. Like literally, we tell people to just plaster it over if you don't think it's useful right now. But it's so much cheaper and so much easier to throw it in while you're doing construction, or if you're building up any new walls or do anything else, to get it done ahead of time, so that you don't have to come back. So those are things to kind of think about there. Next question.
Tommy Chance in St. Paul, Minnesota asks, hey, Alex, what are your next 180-degree shoot plans?
So far, we've done. We did a little concert we did a glass blowing, and I've been looking at all the footage and trying to learn from what we shot. Today, we're gonna do some testing in a studio where we're gonna change. It's really less exciting, but we are going to test different ISOs and different compression ratings and so on and so forth to kind of see what that means. Like, is it worth it? What is that? How does that affect the quality? How much noise reduction do we have to do? We've been noticing a big difference in quality as it relates to noise reduction. Also, potentially some motion blur stuff. But we're probably going to do the motion blur test tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going and shooting some jazz. So we're going to do that in the evening. But during the day we're going to shoot some stuff that is some motion blur, and we're going to use different shutter speeds to kind of figure things out. So we're going to play with that, and then on Thursday we're planning to go put it on our Trinity rig, and kind of do some walkthroughs. My brother's coming up from a shoot, and so he's available. So we're going to throw it on a Trinity rig and see how it performs. So those are the things that we have on the schedule right now. Next question.
Danny Grizzle in Longview, Texas asks, for years I've been a fan of the Nik Collection of Photoshop plugins. This is now owned by DxO, who has launched a major update with deeper integration with the latest Photoshop. Still worth $170, and he includes the link, nikcollection.dxo.com.
Good, Jason.
I don't know if it's worth $170. This is old school royalty. This is some of like the earliest, like really, really great noise stuff. No, I'm not sure if it's worth $170, but boy, does that some nostalgia for me.
Yeah, I admit I don't. I do a lot of production, I guess, and photos are not something that I worry about as much as far as all the filters and everything else that other people do. I mostly need the data, and sometimes I do a little bit of correction on them. But I mostly just capture stuff. So I have to admit that for me, it wouldn't be worth it. It might be worth it if you're doing a lot of, like stuff that you need to look a certain way. But I'm not that kind of photographer anymore. Like, I used to have every plugin that was made, and now I have, I open up Photoshop to usually do very specialty things. But I don't do a ton of correction. So I don't know if it would work. I'm sure that if a photographer might tell you that they use this all the time, I don't know. It is as Jason would say, this is, royalty of the old. Everybody had this when it first started. I just don't know what you'd do with it now. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, what is your best advice for a basic Zoom user?
I go, Jason.
Wear headphones and get everybody else in the Zoom room to wear headphones, and tell them if this doesn't just smooth everything out, then I don't know, I'll eat my shoe. But really, that will make such a difference. I think they'll be blown away.
Oh, go ahead, Ronnie.
I would say three things. So audio first. So make sure they have a really good audio. And using a headset is fixing a few things already. If there is a budget, go with something like the MV6 or MV7 with built-in sound cards. These microphones are sounding really decent, and it has a built-in plug for some of them, built-in plug for your headset. Second, video. So video is going to be less important than audio, and put the camera at eye height, like I have here. It doesn't need to be a really expensive camera, and make sure the aspect ratio or the size of the people inside the camera are kind of similar for everyone. Just pushing the camera away is a good idea. Don't have it really close up in the face. And the third one is connection. So make sure all the users are using the best connection they can have. And that is almost every time a cabled Ethernet cable coming into the computer. Wi-Fi could be working, but if there is a plug on the computer, use a cabled Ethernet connection. That will always save the day.
I since we have a minute or two at the end here, I thought I'd show you. We want to build a 3D model of the camera. And so we wanted to throw something together, and we're not going to use the 3D model that was shot, but we used Polycam, and I haven't used the photo tools on Polycam. I usually just use the LiDAR, so it just uses LiDAR from the phone. Problem is the LiDAR doesn't have enough detail to actually capture what you need to do. And so I did this yesterday, and again, this is the first time I've used Polycam. So I just wandered around the camera on a tripod in my living room, and just set it to object, and it just takes photos, uploads them, and comes back with a model a couple minutes later. And so this is the model here. And
wow.
And this is just USDZ. Now you can see that it rips apart, parts of the geometry and so on and so forth. So it's not, it's not perfect in that sense, but it is enough for us to kind of build through the 3D model. Because what we want to do is for training and so on and so forth, we want to have a representation of the camera, as we go. And so I just needed something rough. So that Kevin can work on the model itself and kind of build out the basic pieces to it. It was a little bit too much in the shadow in the front because of the time of day I was shooting, but I'm gonna we're gonna refine that solution a little bit, and so we'll do it again. But I think that this is again a good start and again things like glass are a little bit more problematic. Because it's reflecting, so it doesn't know what it's looking at. But as far as figuring out where the buttons are when you're building the model and building those things out, it's a useful one. So, next question.
Danny Grizzle in Longview, Texas asks, just bought an Obsbot Tail 2, which I've not taken out of the box yet. How can this be utilized with Zoom for a small nonprofit board meeting with people seated around a table? I want to engage remote board members.
I don't know what the field of view is on the Obsbot. I think that would be the thing that I would look at is like, can I see everybody? And so I think that, and I don't know, the ones that I've found to be the most interesting are ones that are like the 360, the owl, and so on and so forth, that are going to jump to the person who's talking kind of automatically. And so they kind of know where to look, and they look at the person that's talking there. I think it can make it a little bit better. I don't know. I think that engaging the thing that makes the biggest difference for me when we're on a call is the audio. So I don't really care about the camera part. I just want to be able to hear people. And so if I'm looking down, closing my eyes, trying to hear what they're saying, then I'm disengaged. I don't really care as a person I'm on meetings all day. Like I'll be on probably 6 or 8 meetings today. If the culture is to be on video, then I join via video. If the culture is to do audio, I join from my phone, walk around. And it just depends on what people are used to. I have found that in meetings where I'm not the center of attention, I prefer to be on phone because I don't like to sit. It has less to do with Zoom and everything else. I think better when I'm moving. And so and I also just want to, just move around a little bit. I do better. You'll always know whether you're talking to me on video or audio or whatever. If I'm talking on video, I kind of want to get through the meeting. I kind of let's go. If I'm on audio and I'm wandering around with my phone, I'm very conversational. I can talk all day. And so it just depends on what it is. So I would think about that too. If you want people to be very focused and present, put them on video. Just know that then the far end has to make sure that they're seen and heard and interacted with. Those are more important probably than the video itself. I think that being able to see people's faces while they're talking, if you're on video, is useful. But the most important thing is the audio and making sure that it's really clean. And that has a lot to do with the room. It's treating the room. Go Jason.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is one of the cameras. It's not a 360-degree fixed, right? It's one of the ones that is basically a tiny little gimbal, right?
Yeah, it's fixed, so it's not a gimbal.
Yeah. So, I mean, my thought would be, I like the idea, but if you're not cutting between two cameras, getting people out of a very big frame ends up getting a little bit weird, unless it's going to be automatic and you've got a really, really good way to do that. I would focus more on, as Alex said, audio. And, if you want to play around, but don't expect this to be a game changer, especially if it's the first time you're using it in this kind of setting.
Good, Ronnie.
In my page, it's a PD set camera, 4K PD set. But anyway, regardless, I would put this this image into a software like Mimo Live or similar, and just create a virtual output to the Zoom meeting that you are going to be engaged in. Both because you need to rely on the AI, and this AI is meant to be focusing on one person only and tracking that person on a stage, for instance. Using this as a master camera for a lot of people around the round table is not the primary use. So you need some way of setting presets and calling the presets during the conversation.
Next question.
Adam Fine Silver in Orlando, Florida asks, I'm new to the ZV-E10 kit camera. I'm using it in a teleprompter via USB-C. Is there a safe way to turn it off and on remotely so that I can leave the camera in place?
Go, Ronnie.
I have it turned on all day long because that's how I roll. I never turn it off unless it's something going awry with the power into it. I don't know. It's probably not a safe thing to do, but this is how I do it. And as I know, there is no way to remote control on off on that camera.
I think you can unplug it. I think it'll just come back on if it's on. So I think it just take out power. I probably wouldn't do it. I wouldn't power the ZV-E10 with the USB-C, and the reason for that is that it will heat the camera. So using the dummy battery is going to be much better for that specific. A lot of the Sony cameras, there's two things that you want to do for heat management. The Sony cameras are great at autofocus. They're not great at heat dissipation. They're not built to be especially if your studio gets warm at all. And doesn't have to be very warm, like 75, 80 degrees ambient is going to be enough for it to be a problem. And so what you want to think about is, number one is the first thing you want to do is put the dummy battery in. That'll take some of the heat down. The second thing is open your screen. Make sure your screen isn't up against it'll open it up and it'll let it lose some more heat. Yeah, go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, and as an easy solution, just use a remote controllable power outlet, and you will be just shutting off the power supply to the dummy battery and see if that works.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks for all the great questions. I thought we were going to end early, but we didn't because people kept on throwing questions in. Good job to the producers for asking all those great questions and keeping our conversation moving forward. And thanks to the panelists. We can't do this without you. If you'd like to be a panelist, we'd love to have you here. And we have a panelist meeting coming up, so stay tuned for that. But let us know. You can also go to officehours.global/volunteer, and you can find the path to becoming a panelist if you're interested. And thanks to the incredible team on the back end that makes this possible, that engineers this, that cuts it, that manages it. There's a lot of people that are involved to make sure that this happens every single day. We're reaching, next month, we'll be at 2,000. 2,000 times we've done this in a row every single day. So it's an incredible team that makes this possible. The Tlaloc Traversal, if we'd done this in person, we would have traveled 26,000 miles. That's 41,000 kilometers, and that is 203 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours.
We're going to make that glass blower Insta famous, or I guess Vision Pro famous.
I am going to, you're
going to blow him up.
Yeah, my son loves glass blower, and he's decided he wants to do videos. So we're just going to descend on him. We'll do the 180 stuff, but I'm like, he's now become the test case. If you're willing to show up on a Sunday for us with no warning, you are our friend. So everyone, if you're in the Bay Area, we're going to all learn how to shoot by going to his place and shooting him make glass. I love glass, and it's so good for HDR and all kinds of other stuff too. So stay tuned.
In other news, Bay Area glass blowers revenues up 7,000%.
That's the goal. That's the goal. All right. See you later. Yes. Oh, we should do that. I'll ask him about a glass blown banana.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Glass blown bananas. That would be cool.
Who's making the song?
I have no idea. Okay. See you. I think I won't be joining tomorrow.